So the news doesn't always get all the technical details right, or sometimes they're devoid of any technical details. And I'm curious, whenever I see something that I want to solve, there's more technical information I want to know, and some of it's just curiosity. The other part, specifically in this one, how'd they do it, and how can we stop it from happening again? And specifically, we're talking about the bogus bomb threats that were sent a few weeks ago. Now, this happened, and we were called by someone who wanted us to help investigate this. So I did some tracing to try and figure out how it all happened and break it down, and then talked to other tech friends I had who also had places and had the same threats come through. Now, they all say the same thing in the news, and it's because I think it's easier to understand if they put it this way, even though it's not technically accurate. So, state police investigate bogus bomb threat sent to newspaper plant. And here's another one. 2 fake bomb threats target Russellville business and church. River Valley Church pawn shop target scam a bomb threat. University of Detroit, my area here, the 4th evacuation after a fax received, and we're going to get to the facts on that. Facts, not facts. Homeland Security investigating bomb threats, and this was in Atlanta. Then we have Tuesday morning's bomb threat at Lawrence Memorial Hospital deemed to be a hoax. This one has a little bit of information because they said it came out on a printer. That's more accurate. We're going to get to those details. Bomb threat to Whitman business turned to be a hoax. And if you search for this, man, you can just keep going on and on. Oak Creek bomb scare, scam targets local businesses. I mean, I'm not going to go through every single news article. Bomb threat maybe new trend. That's a little more accurate. Bomb threat fax to Napa store. Not fax. Let's get the facts straight. So this is the letter in its entirety, which if you want to be, I know I didn't show that very long. Here's the easier version to read. It's in not well done English. Good morning. I'll be brief. I've installed several explosives in the building. So we knew someone who got this fax, and we were called in to kind of investigate this. Well, fax as they thought it was. Let's dig in deeper to what that was. So this is some type of scare tactic that was used and allegedly wants you to send money to some passport number, Brazilian passport. The city will be drawn out of Chicago, and they got some guy's name in here. Now, if you Google the guy's name, some controversial site comes up. I don't know any details. He's apparently an American citizen, and from what little I could gather through Google Translate, he has asylum here in the U.S. This appears to be an attack not to get money as much as to cause disruption for him, because undoubtedly when you have a bunch of bomb threats sent out and your name on it, you will undoubtedly get a call from the police who are going to stop by your place and go, hey, there's these bomb threats going out with your name on it. So I don't know that he sent them. I don't really know who's behind any of this, but this is where the technical details get interesting. So my first thoughts were, when we went to this client to investigate, is, okay, was it a fax? No. Job history, printer. There was no faxes received on their machine. No faxes. This came through as there. So then we see this file here, completed. SEMTITULO. And it's got the little, it's hard to see, but it's got the little accent mark, I forget what that's called, the little tilde thing above it. So here's the file name, the printer, when it was sent. Turns out the business was closed the day it was sent. And no one was there. And it was done at, let's see, like 11:25 p.m. print end time. I don't know why it sat in the queue for so long. Anyways, so here's the print job, but I noticed that this was an odd name for a file. It didn't take me long to figure out that the person that sent this was very likely a native Portuguese. Now, I first thought Spanish, but then after Googling the guy's name, I realized I'm from Brazil. In Brazil, they speak Portuguese, I think. I'm pretty sure. And I'm working on technical facts. The person who sent this was likely a Portuguese speaker who was set to Portuguese language. And the reason I see this because a little accent and marks above the letters tell me that those are a little harder to type in. But that's also Untitled 1 when you translate it to English, as in like when you open up a new document and it doesn't have a title, like in Basic Word or something like that. Or actually WordPad, I mean, it'll come up with just Untitled 1. We've probably seen it before. So then I'm like, all right, this somehow they connected to their network and did this. But then this was the first I heard of it was from this customer that contacted us. Then I started seeing it all over the news. And I'm like, okay, there's no way the same person connected to everyone's Wi-Fi. Now, they had an open Wi-Fi with their printer on the same network. Not a good idea. Things have been fixed at the client, so this, doesn't happen again if this was the attack vector. You don't want your business equipment on the same as your open Wi-Fi that you provide to the general public that walk in the door. But once I seen it going through the news and everything else, I'm like, we got to dig further to this. And this is where it gets puzzling. Now, this is a Netgear WNR, and of course, like any small business, no one's managing it, no one's patching it. They're not a business that's has any type of active services, so they don't think about that. They plugged in a router they bought from Best Buy, and that was like 5 years ago, and it's been working fine, so they don't see any problem with it. But there are a list of vulnerabilities in the firmware for the Netgear. Netgear had several issues with some of them, so this, I believe, has a few CVEs. I didn't pull them all in a list, but this is what concerns me. Turns out we have the port 80, not port 80, port 900, 8900, and 9100. So if you're familiar with printer ports, 9100 is your standard HP printer port, and it's mapped open. Now, they are not technically savvy in this. So I know that their vendor probably at one point, because they have a camera system, opened up port 80. They got one of those cheap Chinese systems. That could have been the vector of attack. I can't even find any information on the cheap Chinese system, which was also installed about 5 years ago. It's one of those, has a generic name on it. Those are known for a lot of security vulnerabilities. It seems to be functioning. I don't really have any, I wasn't going to dig deeper and see how that was hacked, if it was part of the attack at all. But I found it interesting that there's 3 entries. Now, they're Epson and HP printers. Neither one of those support HP PCL language 9100 port. The Rico does, but each one's mapped. So something got inside their network, and their computers had, there's so many computers coming in and off the network because it's just a general public. Any one of them could have been infected. We didn't find anything directly on the systems that they had in there. Their systems are kind of simple because they mostly remote into a management system that they use to run their business. So there's not a lot installed on their computers. Nothing was jumped out at us there at all. But of course, the open network thing somehow got in here, and this is all default password. Hold your shock here that it was all left at default passwords. But it mapped the port on the printer externally. We don't know when this happens because, unfortunately, Netgear doesn't keep a log of when firewall changes happen. This is one of the reasons we, recommend business firewalls because, well, this is, enterprise class stuff doesn't have this basic interface. It's logged. It's, track logins, and there's no default password. You have to set a password, for example, like when you're using a pfSense firewall. Anyways, so what happened here was somehow some type of I'm going to guess spyware type program, malware type program that looks for vulnerabilities in the Netgear. Now, it would have to have some visibility, I'm assuming, to the inside of the network because it found these printers. Now, like I said, these first 2 printers don't support that type of printing, but the Rico does, which means, and this is all fixed and deleted now and the firmware updated, but the Rico can just receive print commands because they're not authenticated from any external IP address. That being said, you can massively send out by scanning port 9100 a bunch of, maybe bomb threats. Odd use for the time you take to send all these out. Now, it's amazing because the one, and we'll get back to this one right here, because Tuesday morning's bomb threat to be a hoax at Lawrence Memorial Hospital, the non-network dedicated results printer. So that's not a fax machine. So the same threat comes through here. Clearly not a fax machine. Well, because it's a non-network printer, which I think that's someone in the news getting some of the facts wrong again, because it's definitely a network-style printer. That's how it prints. It's just they probably meant they didn't think it was internet connected. And here's part of the problem too. No IT guys want to admit that, whoops, we messed up and left printer ports open. And the comments I got from other IT guys that anonymously I talked to will not be named. They told me that, we think the last guy left all the printer ports open. And I said, I don't think so. I mean, why would even an incompetent IT guy open up all the IP ports, all the printing ports externally? Don't get it. Even if they're inept, that takes effort to do. So the fact that they found it, and one IT guy mentioned he's an admin, and they have 10 different sites that they remotely manage that were hit, and they found open printer ports on those. And he's like, I think the other guy did it. I'm like, seems odd that someone would go through the trouble of doing that. So somehow the malware did this. He did not reveal what type of hardware they're using. but it could have been consumer hardware like Netgear. And like I said, some people don't want to admit that they're using really basic things because, well, it's not a great idea, and this is the exact result. But this looks at a bigger issue I see of this threat. Wow, for all the effort it took and all the disruption that this person caused just to put someone's name on it, that, wow, for everything they did, why wouldn't they go through and do something bigger? It's always like the stacking of threats and kind of going, all right, what else could they have done? Because this is where it gets scary. What if they would have been more disruptive, more deceitful? I mean, a bomb threat's pretty bad, but it's really, just kind of scary to think that, this person did that, and at what scale could they do it again? Was this just a test? Was it just something malicious? Someone wanted to be funny? You don't know. And it's super hard to trace these people because, once again, because they're using consumer hardware, this Netgear simply doesn't have the logging facilities through what traffic passed through it. So I don't even know what IP address it came from. This is a pretty old Rico Officio model. Once again, no logging. It only logs the file name that was sent to it, that it was sent to the printer. But once again, no IP address information at all inside of it. So I have no visibility to even begin a track back on it. And I'm sure this is the same problem that Homeland Security and FBI that are investigating it are doing. But this is one of those instances that I wanted to talk about because I wanted to get the details right. This is clearly a pretty big deal, and these are just the news stories we know about it. I mean, the craziness of just being able to put that in and find a $25,000 bomb threat and see just how many news articles are related to it is pretty wild. But this is one of those things. Like, I wanted to follow up on the news story. I wanted to follow up on what happened in the technical details. And I'm hoping other technical people share more information because I'm curious about what happened. But I think I've pretty much got it. But if you have some more information on this, I mean, obviously, if you have real information, contact local authorities. I don't think I'm disclosing anything that I didn't read in a newspaper except for the part where I'm discussing that it was not a fax. It was this. But I think getting the facts straight also helps us, narrow down where to look. I mean, you're assuming a fax, you're running around tracing phone lines. You're wasting your time. This did not come over a fax. Maybe in other circumstances it did. Seems unlikely. That's a much more difficult attack than sending out faxes because you have to deal with phone lines. Internet, open up the dark web, ram out port 9100 and see what prints where because they have no real way of tracking it back. There's once you send it this way. There's no track back. They don't know. The letter sounds threatening because it says, we'll know if you contact the police, but they don't. There's not a way for them to really tell, and obviously everyone contacted the police. Good news, it was a hoax. I mean, this is a pretty serious matter, but it is pretty scary. Now, the other reason for getting the facts out here is hopefully they get fixed because this not only could happen again. Let me give you some detail here. So this is Shodan, which is a search engine for, exploits, and specifically it searches IP addresses and can show you the things that are open. So this is port 9100, which is so you can send things to printers. To give you some idea of the scale of the problem, there are currently 96,000 printers showing open. This is not a normally authenticated system, so you can probably send data to maybe, let's say, even half of these. So let's say 40,000, 45,000 computers or printers you could just send a print job to. And these are the results from Shodan scanning them. I mean, it's telling you a lot of issues. So you're talking about just starting to send out all these print jobs and cause chaos. People need to fix these things. This is a problem. If they don't fix it, we're going to see more of this because somebody's going to play around and go, I can send this thing to this many people and send it out. It happened once at a decent scale. It will happen again until this gets fixed. And because so many small businesses, don't even know that's a problem, I'm, hoping other IT people go, hey, this is something else to check for. We've checked in our clients. We recommend they replace things like old out-of-date routers and things like that. Part of the challenge that I always have as a IT company is we have some small clients. We tell them to switch. They look at the price and go, it isn't broke. we'll just ignore things that come through the printer. You get the most generic answers because they don't want to spend any money on it. But obviously, this was a big disruption to a lot of people, a lot of businesses, and very concerning. So if you're interested in the content here, like and subscribe. If you found this article interesting, let me know. I plan on doing more hack articles and try to get up into the details because I like the details behind it in the more in-depth in the news. And I'm hoping sharing this information will be helpful to other people and as to how the hack occurred and hopefully how we can prevent it, because we do not want things like this occurring. It's disruptive. It's scary. It's wasting resources of our law enforcement, and it's very disruptive to everyone involved. And hopefully nothing bad comes, through there to someone exploits us again before we start fixing all these problems. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.